So if you don't work your ass off, the way I look at it is someone else is going to, and they're going to take what should be in your pocket. Again, that may sound kind of wrong, but at the end of the day, it's a real thing, because if you don't work hard, someone else will, and might not be the guy next to you, might not be the neighbor a mile down, but somebody is going to, if it's not you.
Welcome to Iron Summit, the podcast where we dive deep into the art and science of becoming your best self, blending expert insights on strength training, smart recovery, optimal nutrition, and mindset mastery to help you elevate your game. Iron Summit is brought to you by Bridge Athletic. Looking for a way to streamline your training programs and deliver exceptional results? Check out our friends at Bridge Athletic. Their platform is packed with over 300 templates and 1,500 instructional videos, courtesy of subject matter experts like Exos, FMS, and Hyperice, making program design both efficient and impactful. Our listeners can take advantage of an exclusive offer. For a limited time, get your first 30 days free and your next month at 50% off when you use code IRONSUMMIT, all caps. That's code IRONSUMMIT, no spaces, all caps, for 30 days free plus 50% off your second month at bridgeathletic.com. Check it out and start assigning custom programs directly to your athlete's mobile device. All right, we are live with Mike Sisselberger, aka Mike Sis. Mike is one of the rare dual threat student athletes, Division I in both wrestling and lacrosse. Definitely really known for his skills in lacrosse. Mike has a long list of accomplishments. I'm going to see if I can get this all right. He's a two-time world champion in the PLL thus far, two-time PLL All-Star, PLL All-Pro selection, four-time All-American in lacrosse, and scholar athlete All-American at Lehigh University, four-time NCAA Division I faceoff man of the year, has the NCAA record for the highest faceoff win percentage, member of Team USA in lacrosse. He plays in two professional lacrosse leagues currently, the NLL, which is indoor, right, and the PLL, which is outdoor. He is one of three Face-Off Man of the Year finalists, one of three Humanitarian of the Year finalists. Is that for the PLL?
Yes.
For the PLL?
Yeah.
One of three Rookie of the Year finalists for the PLL. And was that for the PLL?
That is for the PLL.
Okay. Making sure I get this right. And I mentioned it before, but a dual sport athlete while he was at Lehigh University. He was participated in our favorite sport, which is lacrosse. No, I'm just kidding. It's
Mike, that is a freaking list, man. You're a beast.
First of all, I appreciate you going through it, and people probably don't know, but I sent that list in myself, so I don't know. Another validation there.
That was a short list, though. You got a bunch more, so it was.
I know.
That was our.
I had to add some stuff in there. You know, like you just had NCAA record holder, and I had to specify which record.
Yeah.
So that's an impressive one.
I actually I'm right next to it, so I think it might be best to do. I'm moving into a house hopefully soon, but right now I have in the kitchen, my fiance hates it, just a nice wall.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, there we go.
So that's how I keep track. I just went over and wrote everything down and sent it to you. No, I'm just kidding.
Did you play the guitar
That's
too?
awesome.
I really appreciate you guys obviously having me, and it's not really for the accolades. It's just like to talk to people who are like-minded, not only in sport but in life, and just really cool to discuss everything we're about to get into.
Heck yeah. I have an important question to start out, and that's: would you rather bench 500 pounds or squat 700?
Okay, it's a really good question. So I'll preface with max bench ever was 425. Never touched what Max Russell had at Lehigh, because we have a board, and I was reminded every single day what Max had. But to answer that question, I would say legs feed the wolf, so probably 700-pound squat.
Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we touched on it like when we had a phone call maybe last week, but the functional strength versus like just brute strength in certain sports was just not beneficial for me. Like again, when I was benching 425 pounds, I was like 238, I think was the most I weighed in at squatted. I think it was five.
How tall are you for other people?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if I want to share that. 5'9", five.
Yeah, so a meat stick. Yeah.
Very
Love
broad,
it.
5'9". But yeah, just like functionally, I didn't find it helpful in lacrosse, at least because you're up and down the field. Face-off's a little bit different, but I don't know. I guess squat for me just because legs see the wolf, and hopefully it would pay off more.
What's the most you ever squatted? Because I know you've got some good numbers there.
Yeah, I think 575 it was, but again, you're very familiar with Eric, and everything we do there is super strict, so I never maxed out outside of Lehigh. And if I did try to go up, he would either dissuade me, like, hey, like, what's the risk to reward here? Like, you fall over, you get hurt trying to put another plate on or whatever it may be. So 575 in the weight room at Lehigh. Tried other things, but never really. I don't think I ever pushed myself to the max.
Yeah. If you trained for like powerlifting strength, you would have put up some silly numbers just because you have the right build for sure, and you're just a strong dude. I mean, 425 bench and a 575 squat is not insignificant.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, makes sense why you were good in that face-off position. I also want to for our listeners, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of lacrosse people listening as well to your audience. Like face-off is one of the most important aspects of the game of lacrosse because that like after you score a goal, you can get the ball back and have possession right away.
Right.
So it's like it's one of the most important things in lacrosse. So having a face-off guy like Mike who was winning. What was your win rate in college?
So
like
when I broke the NCAA record, it was 80%. So every draw I took, it was probably over 1,100 draws taken at Lehigh. In a season, you break that down, 4 seasons, probably like 300 around there. So yeah, 80% was the NCAA record holder season, and then average probably around 67, 70% in that range. So
yeah, that's a huge
huge
advantage.
yeah. Like a jump ball in basketball. It's like if you score and then you got to take a jump ball every time. Like if you have the guy who's the tallest, like you're just gonna keep getting the ball back. I never had that. But
you didn't. Yeah, in lacrosse, you have the guy who's 5'9", 238.
Dude, lacrosse is such a great sport that I've been telling Max all week. I was like pumped to talk to you because I love lacrosse growing up. I didn't find it. It's not as big. Like I grew up in Colorado, as it is on the East Coast. But like 5th or 6th grade, I quit like soccer and basketball. It's like I'm playing like football, lacrosse, and wrestling, and I don't know. It was like a perfect blend of like speed, but there's still contact in it. You know, it's not. I don't know. It's a great sport. I feel like more people need to play lacrosse. It's such a physical and fun sport to watch too.
Yeah. First of all, I appreciate you saying that. One, I feel the same way about wrestling. I feel like wrestling is super overlooked, and I'm from an area where the Lehigh Valley is a huge powerhouse wrestling area. But on the lacrosse topic, like it's just an overlooked sport. I think it has such a stigma behind it that people almost stay away from it in that sense. But one, they should not, obviously in a biased view. But two, just the transitive properties you get from playing lacrosse can carry over. The way we look at it, like there are days at Lehigh we played 5-on-5 basketball just to emulate like an offensive scheme, right? You set a pick, roll, you're always attacking towards the net. It just has so much crossover between sports that I think it would be just beneficial for all athletes. But I don't know, biased view, of course. But I think it's a really cool sport, and the NLL, I think Max touched on it a little when we were doing the introduction there. So the NLL is an indoor game. It's played on a hockey rink. So my last game was at Wells Fargo Center where the Flyers play. So really all they do is they take the ice, put a piece of turf over it, you play there for the weekend. So it's quite literally in a hockey rink, like boards all around you, ball's not going out of bounds. Field lacrosse is a little different. That's what the PLL is. So it's like a full field, almost like a football field. I think it's 110 yards instead of 100. So there's a little bit different there in the types of lacrosse. The NLL is like more Canadian, like box style is what they call it. And then the field is like more Americanized and like national stage, but it's growing exponentially. I've heard it's the fastest growing sport on 2 feet, but again, I've heard that from other biased sources. So it's been really fun. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which do you like better, indoor or outdoor?
Right now I like Outdoor because I got punched in the face about 2 weeks ago, chipped my tooth.
Oh yeah. Look at
Yeah.
that.
So, for the medical insurance standpoint, I like outdoor. For the physicality, the physicality standpoint, indoors awesome. I just like playing all year round. I actually never played box lacrosse until this year, and I joined. My team is the Rochester Nighthawks. Where's my hat? Right here.
Let's
Um,
go.
Rochester Nighthawks in Rochester, New York. Joined about 1/3 of the way through the season. Never had any aspiration to play indoor, but they called me like, "Hey, we need a guy," and they were just trying to see where I'm at, and it worked out in that sense. So this is the first year I've ever played box lacrosse, and I fell in love with it, just how fast the game is and the physicality.
Do you so like I know in outdoor face off guy like kind of play you play the face off, you play that possession maybe. You get off the field. Is it similar in indoor? Are you on more? Like what's it like in that way?
Yeah, it's very similar in that sense. Face-offs, again, talking about it earlier, very important aspect of the game, but it is more so like a shift, kind of like a hockey shift almost. You take the draw, you lose it, you stay and play defense because you can't give up that like substitution opportunity because they'll have an extra man going if you're getting off. Same thing with outdoor. But in the sense that if you have a guy who can play offense and can handle the ball, like you can really create opportunity for yourself, not only yourself but your team. Like you win that ball, you got to go into the left. That guy's kind of on your back. You can start pushing transition. For the lacrosse people viewing this, you understand the terms I'm kind of saying here. Start pushing transition. In layman's terms, it's like a 6v5, right? So you're playing with an additional man, and obviously that adds to your favor just having less defensemen than you have offensive guys. So that's kind of the beauty of it there. But to answer your question, it is kind of like a shift thing because you take over in the PLL is like high scoring, like 16 to 15 games, and then you take one after every goal. You take one after every quarter, so you take upwards of 35 to 40 draws in a game. So I'll say that shit gets tiring.
Yeah, that's a lot of face offs, and I'm sure the guys you're going against are not loving that. What if you had to boil it down to one? What's the key? What's the key to being so dominant of a face off guy?
Um, I don't know. That is a loaded question. I could probably talk about that for 2 hours here. I'll boil it down to two main things, I guess. One story ties into wrestling. One, doing something for such a long time, and just getting the muscle memory and touching on muscle. And like you guys are obviously very experienced in the weightlifting aspect and all that, and that ties in with sport. But muscle memory of anything, I think, is huge. So I think once you do something for long enough and you just get the repetition, that is a huge key, right? You can't just pick things that are such a niche up, right? If I wanted to face off tomorrow, I've never faced off before, like my wrists just wouldn't bend that way. But like it's that accompanied by what I like to think, and I tell myself every day before I go to bed, just being mentally tough. Again, that tying in with wrestling. I remember I was 11 years old, and my dad took me out of school, said I had a doctor's appointment. He actually took me out of school to go run on the local rail trail with a trash bag on to make weight for the wrestling match that night. Like it just mental toughness in anything, and I think it ties in with wrestling, face-offs, and just the layover there. But the main key, probably those two, and then just you can't really think of the next one. You always have to just be where your feet are. It's the best advice I ever heard. Because if you ride on the high of winning the last one, you're probably not going to win the next one. And if you get too low on yourself for losing the last one, you're probably not going to win the next one either. So those are like three main keys I'd find. But if those were an additive, then you could try to sum it up there.
That's good.
So,
Yeah.
so how do you train for that? Like in terms of, I mean, at practice, you can only take so many draws at practice, but like it's also very like skill specific. So like, what does a typical practice look like for you when you're trying to improve like a face off?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I get that a lot. I work with a couple colleges actually who ask the same thing because there's a huge like gap between having your face-off guys at practice doing stuff with the whole team and having them do kind of like a 1 hour individual session. And I'm fortunate enough to still be here around Lehigh. I do stuff with them. So how we break it down and kind of what I did in college was like an hour, maybe on like a Monday and a Wednesday, and face off for an hour there, then go to practice for the additional hour. But again, it's the repetition aspect. Like you can't just train and do everything except face off. Like there's only so many exercises you can do to get better at face-offs, but at the end of the day, those are just going to be additive to facing off, not making you better at facing off. So like the short of it would just be probably just the repetition and just the hour every couple days.
So how many reps would you get in that hour of face-offs?
It's a good question. Me personally, I just would go every single time somebody was ready. But nowadays, being my old 24-year-old self, take a good 30 seconds in between and then go. Yeah, probably in an hour, probably like 200. It's not a bad.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yep, you'll get good at something. You do it 200 times an hour.
Is it kind of like wrestling though, where you need like a good partner to go against, right? Because you're just smashing them on the face off every time. You're not learning anything. So is that tough? Like on teams, I'm sure growing up, you're probably, facing guys that you're way better than them. How do you get better when you don't have somebody that's challenging you with that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, definitely ties in with wrestling there too. One, hearing a whistle, like again, people who aren't super familiar with the face-off, it's a down, so you get down in your stance, set. This is all what the ref says. So it's down, he says set. There's like a 1 to 2 second pause between set, and then he blows the whistle. So one, getting comfortable in your stance, really no matter who you're going against, and two, just like being able to react and kind of not almost anticipate, but like or time it up, but just being able to react off a whistle is something important that I find, especially if you're going against someone who's not as good. It's kind of just getting better at the stuff that is not happening during the face-off, but instead like what happens before it. Like in wrestling, if you're going to set up a shot, like you could be phenomenal at setting it up, but if you can't finish the shot, then it's probably not as beneficial. Same thing with face-offs. Like if you're pretty good at setting up your face-off, getting in your stance, like being ready to go, but you're just slow off the whistle, then it's two different things. So there's two aspects you have to work on it there. So it's good to go against good guys with good hand speed, but it's also almost good to go against guys who don't have great hand speed and get used to the other stuff, if that answers the question.
Yeah, for sure. How did wrestling, because I know we've talked about this before, and you even and you had an awesome coach at Lehigh, both in lacrosse and wrestling, like they would let you sometimes go to wrestling practice instead of lacrosse is so relevant for face-offs, wrestling. Like talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing I'll start off with is just the low center of gravity. The face-off stance and the wrestling stance are very similar. And people who haven't played lacrosse before, maybe people watching this who haven't wrestled before, it's just having that low center of gravity, bending at the knees, good core strength. Everything kind of overlaps. Like I don't think you could find a better position in lacrosse at least, to be so, I don't know, like, again, talking about a transitive property that just overlays so well with another position, especially because they switched the rules from face-off. So it used to be on a knee, overhand. I can't really show you guys on camera, but it used to be on a knee, like just sitting on the ground basically. But now you have to be standing up, kind of like crouched, knees bent. So it's almost like you're taking a shot. I guess to answer that, just doing that every day and wrestling every day was just very similar because you were kind of in the same stance.
It's similar. Also, were you nasty on bottom because you had good reaction off the whistle?
So it's funny you say that. I was absolute dog shit on bottom for like 2 years, and I hated it. It was my worst thing ever. Like I would always choose neutral. Shorty Hitchcock Open, never went on bottom. That was like my first and last tournament I got to wrestle. But no, I was very bad at bottom. And then I was literally thinking the same thing. I was like, this is just reacting off the whistle. And I would wait there and be like, all right, like I don't really know what to do, like whatever. And then as soon as I realized I could just react off the whistle, I don't think I was on bottom for more than a second. Like once you things that you said. Again, that's not to sound egotistical. It's just literally figuring it out as you go. But no, very bad on bottom. Very, very bad. If I don't react to the whistle, or if they just get like a lucky no caution, then I'm in trouble. Yeah, I'm stuck. I'm not getting up.
That's funny. That's like college wrestling. That is like one of the hardest transitions, is getting used to that top and bottom, where in college it's just so much better.
Yeah.
in high school, you don't have to be that good. It really is like if you're the faster guy off the whistle, you get out every time.
Yeah.
In college, sometimes that's not the case. But it does seem, I was just curious because it's both like a reaction time to the whistle.
Yeah. I found that out too late. I think I would have won the Shorty Hitchcock Open.
Hey,
God.
maybe
Sorry.
we'll get you in there. Maybe we can get you in an open tournament. You get a second chance.
I've always thought about that. So I don't know if like you guys know this or anybody listening knew this. Like my uncle was an Olympian wrestler in 1986. I believe it was Los Angeles. He got silver medal. And it's really funny talking about what I do for work. I work in Philadelphia in financial technology and investments. And I reach out to people, talk about their investment strategies, where they're investing. I reach out to this guy, and his name sounds so familiar. And his name was Lou Bannock. And I was like,
yeah.
like I know that name. There was no picture on the LinkedIn. Like Lou Bannock's like what, 75 years old now. So I set up a call, go Zoom, talk with him. He's in my territory is the Midwest, so he's in I'm tempted to say Chattanooga or Ann Arbor, one of those two. And I was like, oh my God, it's Lou Bannock. So long story short, Lou Bannock beat my uncle in the 1986 Olympics in Los Angeles for the gold medal.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he
Dude,
felt that he told me that.
So small world. My neighbor growing up, her sister married, I think it was Lou. So like it's her brother-in-law. And so when we were like 10 or 12 or whatever, he came over and like spoke to like our whole youth program. It was sweet.
Holy, yeah. No discredit to Lou. You see him now. I didn't recognize him, but you look at Lou's pictures from when he was at Iowa. The guy, like, oh my gosh, F anybody up. But yeah, if you talk to him, he owns a company, private real estate firm in one of those two. It's called Land by Label. He's a successful guy now. Wrestling translates well.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. I want to come back to lacrosse and wrestling, how you got into them. But I have a couple other important questions for you. One thing I know about Mike is he's a pre-workout connoisseur.
I am.
He loves to get caffeinated before he lifts. And I'm wondering, what is your favorite pre-workout of all time? And what pre-workout are you taking right now, if any?
That's such a great question. I am a connoisseur, if you will. I remember I was reaching out to you and reaching out to Dom, who I think connected me through you for
pre-workout advice. Dom is a strength coach at Lehigh.
Dom was our strength coach, one of the best people I know. Oh, what was it called? It was like Black Label or something.
All black everything.
All black everything. It was from like the UK. I don't know, but
that stuff's good.
So good. That actually was not my favorite. I think. Backtrack here. My first time really lifting was sophomore year of college when COVID hit. I never lifted weights before that. Never felt the need to. It was crazy. And the only reason I got into it is because everything was shut down. My fiance's cousin owns a gym, like a powerlifting gym, and she opened it up to her family during COVID, just her family. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, I love lifting. And she had like this very, very laid back, like she's a phenomenal lady, very strong, but she had like, we'll say a very laid back pre-workout. I think it was called like gym, like JYM or something. And I tried it and I was like, people take this stuff? Like, this is crazy. Like, I never even had caffeine before, really. So fast forward, I got a tolerance for that. I think I moved up to, what would I move up to? Probably just like some other thing that I thought the, flavor was good, like gummy bear, and then got a compliment for that. And then long story short, fast forward to like psychotic, and then fast forward to my good buddy Eli Grape, who was super into lifting. He got me on this thing. It was called like, oh my gosh, it was horrible because it didn't have ingredients on it. I just had like an upside down cross with what the ingredients. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna argue this. Like, I'm gonna get it. I'm trying to think because that's my favorite.
The proprietary blend.
You're so lucky you didn't pop on a drug test or something.
Literally. I was literally freaking out because the first time I ever took that, like I could have lifted anything. Like, you would have put it in front of me and you told me to lift it, I would have lifted it. But then I found out like some of the stuff had like DMAAs, and I was like, okay, I got to actually look into what I research now or what I take now. So psychotic's probably up there for me. And right now, I don't take anything that is a pre-workout supplement. I would say I have Celsius, which I don't think is very good for you. I'm talking with CBum and his crew right now, just with they're releasing like a kind of a drink to replace that, and it's something cool we have in the works there. They've already released it. I just want to partner up with them, but no, Celsius right now. Yeah.
That's yeah, I feel like you go through like an arc with pre-workouts when you first start lifting. They're like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And then you start like building too much tolerance, and then you just end up at like, just give me some form of caffeine.
Yeah.
That's all I'm at.
It was that and the tolerance part sucked. And I found myself going to the gym some days just to take pre-workout. I didn't want I really
Caffeine's a heck of a drug, man.
Yeah. I didn't want to work out. I just wanted to feel something.
Have you taken beta alanine yet? You I'm sure you have with some of these powders.
It gets you going.
Crazy. Yeah, so that was a big one. That's the one that makes you itchy, right?
Yeah. You got
beta-alanine makes you
bugs on
itchy.
your skin.
Citrulline makes you a little itchy as well.
Yeah.
Citrulline maliate.
I had to sorry.
No, you go. Keep going.
No, so there was a brief stint where I actually had to look for beta alanine in the pre-workout because I wanted to feel something. So I didn't care what was in it. I just wanted to feel something.
A lot of beta. Yeah.
Don't do math.
Yeah.
Not that.
So do you drink coffee? Are you a coffee drinker, or do you like pre-workout?
Yeah. So again, on that, like I never had caffeine. Honest to God, never had caffeine until sophomore year of college, and my first caffeine was pre-workout. Now I've gotten to the point where I have like probably 6 cups of coffee a day. Like
Okay.
it's so bad. I get up at 4 a.m. for work. I get home at like 7 p.m. So I need it, but it's not good.
How's work?
That's all right.
How's work and training? How's that balance? And like, obviously you're busy with work. You just like a bunch of hours. You're up early. How do you balance that? And what's your typical week look like?
Yeah, no, great question. So the preface of getting up at 4 a.m. is so I can train before work. Don't want to sound like, yo, I'm the man. I get up at 4 a.m. Like I don't want to get up at 4 a.m. But the drive
You do
to
what you
Philly,
need to do.
yeah, exactly. Like the drive to Philly is about an hour and 10 minutes going there, and then it's about 2 hours back with the traffic. So I found if I left earlier, like at that time, I would get to the gym and be able to work out. And if I left like an hour earlier, it would add 45 minutes just because that's when everyone's going into work. So to answer your question, just training before work, we have a really cool club in Philadelphia. It's called the Fittler Club. You just work out there. They have like ice baths, hot tub, pool, gym equipment, but like nothing like free weights stuff, just kind of whatever. But it's a super cool club. I think I was telling Max, I ran into a Lehigh Wrestling alum in the cold tub, and I think his name was Derek Zink. Does that ring a bell?
Yep.
He was the man. Ran into him in the cold tub. It was really kind of a funny scenario. We were just sitting there. I was like, who's crazy enough at like 45 years old to be in here right now? But yeah,
That's awesome.
4 works when I train usually.
So, yep, that's awesome. Yeah, you just got to get it done.
Yeah.
Goes to show you can work like Mike, get your training in, play professional lacrosse, because you don't really have weekends because you're just playing lacrosse.
No. Yeah, that's been a really tough and sensitive subject for me. Not in the sense that I don't want to talk about it, just like I don't have weekends. This is my first weekend. This weekend is my first weekend free in 4 months because I have a bye week and play all year round. And when I don't play all year round, I'll do like a camp or clinic. So last time I talked to you, went to IMG Academy, did a really cool thing with collaboration of Nike and the PLL. So just gone every weekend. And I'd love to be home more because obviously I just got engaged in September, but 24 years old, like I'm going to do the hard stuff now so I don't have to when I'm 30, I think. But
Yeah, that's awesome.
30's old, man.
yeah, 30, I don't know. Wait, you probably can still do hard shit at 30.
I'm 32 and a half and plus a month.
You're almost
So-
there, Max. 33. It's coming.
I know it is coming. Yeah,
That's funny.
you can still do some of the other stuff, but you're right. Like as you start having a family and stuff, you'll want to be around a little more, for sure. So are you taking any other supplements right now, or just your Celsius and your training? And
Yeah, no, I take some vitamins, nothing crazy. I actually started taking iron just because I found that was like super beneficial in the sense of one, energy. People don't really think of it in that sense, but a lack of iron is actually a big thing in a lot of adults and male athletes that if you don't have it, it's a pretty big detriment, makes you tired and stuff. AG1, I was on that train for a little bit, kind of got off it, went and got like the Walmart brand because it got expensive. It was like $100 a month. Started doing like that, greens. But other than that, just protein, trying to eat cleaner. I think that's a really hard thing with travel, eating clean, because there's no real options unless like you want to spend like $30-$40 each meal on like a plane or airport. But eating clean is probably the biggest supplement I have right now. Just trying to eat cleaner.
Heck yeah. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. Really, I'm doing this thing called Factor. So they have a really good,
Yep.
pretty simple ingredients there. It's usually a protein, a vegetable, and whatever else they add in. So that's good portion, good all food groups. I do overnight oats in the morning, so I put it in at night, refrigerator. Take that, and then when I get to work, usually finish the workout, have these really good protein bars. I'm trying to think of the name. It's almost like a chocolate bar, which probably isn't great for the protein aspect, but it's called Barbell, I think. You
Oh
familiar?
yeah,
Yeah.
those are good.
Yeah, they taste phenomenal. Barbell protein bars, and then I don't really eat lunch that much, then come home and eat the Factor dinner, and that's about it.
You skip lunch? You're crazy.
I don't know. Like, I think the coffee like suppresses the appetite.
It definitely does. Yeah, it definitely does.
It's like the coffee definitely makes me out the other end and not intake. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's the hard part.
So funny. I mean, I know why you like. I would also be if I didn't have caffeine until my sophomore year of college. That would have been like an awakening.
I really didn't.
I understand you.
Yeah, I get you.
Max,
Yeah.
when did you start having caffeine? I don't think I started until my sophomore, junior year of
I
college.
started drinking coffee probably like junior, senior year of high school.
Okay.
Nice.
Dude,
Yeah.
I love the smell of it. I never liked the taste. And then, like, one of my coaches, Coach Howe, he was always like drinking coffee. He's like, "Oh, it's great for performance." And I was like, "Oh, how's doing it? How's a national champ? I'm gonna start drinking coffee." And then when you're cutting weight and you don't have a lot of energy, you rip a shot of espresso. I was like, "This is nice."
Yeah.
That was
Oh, we could spend an entire podcast on coffee. I love coffee. I know Ryan's a big coffee guy as well.
Love
That's
it.
like now I'll take non-stim pre-workouts, but it's because I don't want to use any of my like caffeine allocation of the day because I'd rather just drink coffee.
yeah.
I love coffee.
This
I
rationing
I
is
used to
caffeine.
drink my coffee a little fruity. When I was like junior, senior in high school, I'd get like, all the oat milk in it and all that. And then I went to Lehigh and I was in Lehigh wrestling legend, rest in peace, Greg Strobel, who was the head coach before Coach Pat. He was around when I got to Lehigh. He actually started recruiting me. And then Pat took over. That's how I'm that old. Coach Strobel was still coaching when I was being recruited. But I used to go fishing with him sometimes in the mornings. We'd go on the Lehigh River and he would bring black coffee and he wouldn't let me put anything in it. He was like, a man drinks his coffee black.
Wow.
And so I just
That's
started drinking it
awesome.
black at that point and never stopped. I was like, I didn't even like it at first because I was like, this is just not as tasty. But then once you learn like the taste of good coffee, then you don't want anything in it. So now I'm a strict only black coffee guy.
On that note, like, what coffee do you find yourself drinking? You brew your own like pod or whatever it may be. Like, I'm interested to know, and I'll tell you what I get after that.
Oh yeah, we could spend a lot of time on this. So I love any kind of coffee. I like now I'm a coffee snob, so I like single origin light roasts. I'll brew my own coffee every morning, and then I'll even do. I've learned how to do pour overs over the last year or so. So I'll make if I'm feeling like spending a little time on my coffee, I'll make a pour over. That's been harder having a daughter now. So I'll go with my brewed coffee if I don't have time, but I love making a good pour over. I think that's like the kind of the pinnacle of coffee experience for me. I know some people are espresso people, like Ryan really likes espresso.
Dude, I like a good pour over, a good French press too. Like I like it all, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have an espresso. I don't think I've used it. My fiance uses it more than I do. What I have been getting into, and just the conveniency aspect of it, I think is the K-Cups like Keurig, and getting like really effed up like coffee things. So the one I have now is called like Death Wish.
Super caffeinated.
It's like super caffeinated. It's like the darkest black coffee, and you could just tell. I think one Death Wish cup might have like 300 to 400 milligrams of coffee.
Mike's just about the caffeine content.
I don't
Hey,
care.
He doesn't care
Mike,
about the taste.
you
He's
know
just
they
like,
make-
give me caffeine.
They make caffeine pills. You could just take some. Maybe I shouldn't tell you that.
No, you should tell me that. And I saw like they have pouches too, and like
Yep.
I don't know. I've never tried those. I mean, I don't know how family friendly the feed is, but
Oh,
definitely.
just you can let it.
You're
Whatever
good.
you got to say.
No, I mean, like the pouches of wrestling. I've tried like Grizzly Wintergreen stuff and whatever, but no, I'm very interested about the caffeine pouches. Those seem awesome.
Yeah, that is appealing. But except for me, I like coffee too much, so I'd just rather have my fancy pour over than any other
Will
form
you
of caffeine.
will you drink cold brews or like iced Americanos in the summer, or are you just like hot year round?
You're-
Good question.
Both of you.
I like both. I'll do cold brew. I like a good cold brew is really good,
Yeah, I love.
and they're more caffeinated.
Oh,
So
my
Mike
God.
probably really
Yeah.
likes it. Yeah. So the lower temperature the coffee is brewed at, the higher the caffeine content.
Oh,
I thought it was because it sits in it longer. Because with cold brew, it sits for like 48 hours, just
Oh,
like immersed.
It's that it gets more, but then also heat extracts caffeine. So like decaf beans, they just roast for a really long time.
Oh, okay.
That's how they decaffeinate them. They basically burn them.
Hmm.
So like dark roasts have the least caffeine.
Yeah.
Light roasts have more caffeine because they're
That makes
roasted for a
sense.
shorter period
Yeah.
of time.
Yeah,
And
that
then
does make sense.
and then when you're putting boiling water through the grinds, you extract some of the caffeine. So like cold brew is more caffeinated than nitro cold brew. That's like the high. I think like a nitro cold brew has like 3 times the amount per ounce, 3 times the amount of caffeine as like a hot coffee. And so nitro cold brew, like I drink one and I'll feel it. That makes you feel something.
oh yeah. Just make me feel something, please.
Uh,
I've been doing it all wrong. I've been making it hot in the Keurig and then putting ice in it. So I'm just double shafting myself.
yeah,
Just-
you
hey,
gotta just make
just
a cold brew.
Chew the beans. From what Max is saying, just chew the beans. You'll get the most
Yeah, get a
extraction.
light roast and just eat it.
I might just have to start doing that.
That's
like that.
funny. Hey, so Mike, what do you think? Let's talk about your mindset, man. Obviously, you're a grinder. You double sport athlete. Super tough position you play in lacrosse. Super successful, and then also you're waking up at 4 a.m. You're balancing a full-time career. You're traveling, 3+ hours of commuting a day. Like, where does that come from? Did you build it up when you were younger, or like, do you think that's something you can work on? You naturally had, or combination of both? What's your mindset with sports in life in general?
Yeah, first of all, I think that's one of the most phenomenal questions I've ever been asked because not many people touch on that aspect. People think overnight success is a thing, and maybe it was, but I sure as hell haven't had it in my lifetime. I like to think that the overnight success came 24 years later, and it's still happening. My mindset, I guess, is one, just wanting to make a better way for my family and everyone around me. And like, again, I could talk about this for 2 hours. So that's the first part. So my mother was an immigrant from Beirut, Lebanon, from the Middle East, in like a war-ridden country, came here with $300 in her pocket. So just the stories I heard from her is just so different than when I grew up. So her having to work at like the local McDonald's after high school, not knowing a lick of English, like her instilling that work ethic in me was something I found really powerful, but that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of where it comes from. My father was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when he was 23 years old, and him just battling a disease that quite literally takes away your functions of just everything you can think of, because again, your brain, your body is pretty much just like a sack, right? Your brain is everything that's controlling you. So if you have something that affects your brain, your body's almost paralyzed, we'll say. So he lost a lot of function in his hands and his legs. He was going into a wheelchair when I was 11 years old. I lived in Chicago, Illinois for a year while he was in the hospital. He got a blood transfusion there. So I guess just the collaboration of the two things of having an immigrant mother who worked her bag off to absolutely provide and find a better life for herself, accompanied by not the opposite side of the spectrum, but someone who lived in the United States and just was unfortunate with a disease, right? So there's just so many factors in life that I find can be a detriment. So if you don't work your ass off, the way I look at it is someone else is going to, and they're going to take what should be in your pocket. Again, that may sound kind of wrong, but at the end of the day, it's a real thing, because if you don't work hard, someone else will, and might not be the guy next to you, might not be the neighbor a mile down, but somebody is going to, if it's not you. So I like to think about that every day. And it definitely wasn't easy, right? Because having my parents grow up in like a weird kind of aspect, being my mother, her parents still don't speak English. I love them to death. My father lost his father when he was like 16. His mom was not like as involved. He got sent to boarding school. So they were definitely tough parents in the sense that they almost had to grind for what they had to do. So they didn't know anything different than kind of teaching their kids the same way. But again, like even the story I shared earlier, like my dad pulling me out of school at 11 years old to go run on the local like trail with a trash bag on just to make weight for a wrestling match, or like my mom coming to matches or games and leaving at halftime because she doesn't know anything but success. And if you're not succeeding, then she doesn't really care to watch.
Hardcore, like
it's hardcore, but it instilled in me something crazy, which I'm grateful for. But it definitely sucked growing up, and it still does. Like I remember distinctly my dad leaving my last game of my college career ever. It was in Boston, playing Army in the Patriot League Championship. Wasn't having my best game, and I was just used to success and very fortunate to have that. He was used to watching me succeed and wasn't having my best game. So call him after the game. I was like, hey, like tough loss and definitely things I could have done better. But some of the guys are grabbing like food after, like just celebrating the last 4 years. He's like, I'm home. And I was like, what? It's like a 4-hour drive. Like, when did you leave? He left after like the first quarter of the game because he's like, this is absolute dog shit. So it's just little things like that I think drive me and just have to find a way to succeed. But talking about the mental aspect, like I don't care anymore how I feel, because I think that no matter what you do, you're going to feel bad, right? And that's, I think, what differentiates the good people from the great people in life and in sports is that how you react when you feel like you don't want to do something or when you feel like it's not paying off. Because a lot of people, and I get it at 24, I feel this every day. A lot of people are like, if this isn't going to give me immediate kind of reaction or dopamine, whatever you want to call it, then I'm not going to do it. It's super easy to do it on the days where you are succeeding and you find success in something and your dopamine receptors are like, hell yeah, let's keep doing this. But the days where you don't want to fucking, excuse me, sorry, when you you don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. and it's really warm under the covers and it's 20 degrees outside, ice on the road. You don't show up for work that day. You don't get paid for work that day. Someone else takes the metro area you're working on, gets an account that you're not working on because you're home laying in bed. It's just shit like that I find, and I translate it over to sports. And I apologize for rambling on, but that's just like a little bit of my mindset.
No, I think it's so true. I've seen it a couple times recently, and I think it's so true. It's like, no matter what you do, it's going to be hard. Like, exercise is hard, but being obese is hard. Like, making a lot of money is hard. Living in poverty is hard. Like, it's going to be hard, so you might as well just give it your all.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with that mindset.
Yeah.
It's a great way to look at things.
No, I mean, Max has a really good point too. Like, I never actually heard anyone put it that way. And that's like a phenomenal way to look at it, because I really haven't found a point in life that's easy. I don't know about you guys, but like you've had so much success, Ryan, Max, and I'm fortunate enough to have success in some things that I do. And I have yet to find like, okay, that was awesome and I deserve it. It was more so like I put in 4 years of my time to do something for 8 minutes, right? You look at a wrestling match, what is it, like 3-minute first period, 2 minute, 2 minutes, so 7 minutes total. Like people think that 7 minutes you tried your bag off. Like, no, like for the last 16 years of my life, I've been working for these 7 minutes. Like that's fucking crazy. But it's just stuff like that, you know?
I think it's such a great point. And like you said earlier, like there's no overnight success and there's no like secret sauce. It's like showing up every day for years and years and years and years. And then people are like, how'd you do it? And it's like, there's not a silver bullet. You did it for years and years and years. My question to you, like being super successful, I think, and just hearing your mindset and being around people like yourself, it seems like, do you ever struggle with like stopping and like celebrating some little wins and like smelling the roses a little bit, or is it always like moving on to the next thing?
Yeah, another phenomenal question there. These are things I think about every day, and I appreciate you guys asking them because, again, you guys have had so much success, and I think you think the same way I do. The hard part of that, and I'm sure you guys have dealt with it, it's like when you do win, you expect yourself to.
Right.
So, like, I don't, it's almost like, I'm not going to say I don't get happy when I win. I do expect to, just based off of the time I've put in, but I get more pissed when I lose. I would say like winning for me that's all right. Like I don't really care that much, but it's more so the drive to not lose, which I don't think is a great mindset, but it's not a bad. Yeah, it sucks some days. But to answer your question, like no, I struggle with that a lot, and honestly, like talk to a therapist about it. Like I can't remember a time that I stopped and was like, damn, like you did it, man. Like this, look at you 8 years ago and look at you now. Like that guy would be pretty proud. Some days I do think about that. Maybe it's like a 5 minute stint of laying in bed and just like looking up. But no, I don't think I stop and smell the roses yet because I just don't think the job's finished. Um, it's tough. I don't think the job's finished in sports. I don't think the job's finished in work. I think maybe one day when I'm like 35, 40, 45 and got a nice house, a nice yard, and a nice dog and all that stuff, maybe. But right now, sounds cliche, but I haven't felt that way.
Yeah. I totally understand that. And I think that like, I asked you that because I definitely have like felt that same way where it's like, if you expect to win and you win, it's like, cool, you did what you're supposed to do next. Where if you lose, you're like, okay, I did what I wasn't supposed to do. I'm just super upset. So, but it's kind of a double-edged sword where part, part of it is like, that's probably what pushed you to be super successful, probably what drives you and does like, makes you continue to push. But then also, I think in terms of like longevity too, there's a certain aspect of, at least I feel, needing a little more balance of like being able to be like, sit down for 5 minutes, be like, no, that was great. Like, that was awesome. Let's celebrate that. And, I don't know, I think about my mom with this stuff. Like my mom was somebody that you come home from a tournament and she'd have like a cake and a poster and like a congrats. And I'm like, why, like what, why are you doing that? But you never know how much time you have on this earth, and like celebrating with your friends and family. Your sister comes home and she just won a big soccer game. Like, y'all go grab dinner. And so it's something I'm trying to work on too. So I was asking selfishly for myself. But I do think that it's probably also part of what pushes you to be such an exceptional human being too. So it's like, how do you keep that part, but also enhance other parts of your life and not just, look back and be like, dang, I wasn't happy during that journey, even though I did all these cool things.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the biggest thing. It's enjoying the people around you. Like you almost do it for them in a sense. Like, cause again, I would love to see my parents happy more than myself and the people around me. And I find a little disconnect there. And I think I should be better at this and trying to make everybody else around me happy and almost enjoying it. Like you said, but it is tough, right? Cause you're expected to win and you do win and you do it. And that's about it. And then when you do not succeed, I find myself at least kind of almost thinking what people are thinking of me rather than like, if I don't succeed, I'll leave it at this and segue into something else. But if I don't succeed, I more so don't get down on myself. I get down on myself when I'm thinking of what other people are thinking, if that makes sense. Like I
Yeah.
care less because I know I'll succeed the next time and I'll learn off of what I did. So maybe I'll be mad for 5-10 minutes. But the thing that probably aggravates me the most is that whole week of, okay, like shit, like what are people thinking? Like they think I lost it or whatever it may be. It's just little stuff like that, I'd say.
It's a fine balance. And, I think it is really hard to find that sweet spot. I think to your point, right? You look at the most successful, most driven people. A lot of times it is driven by like a need to win, to prove themselves, to continue to prove themselves, to whether it's prove to yourself or to prove to others that you can do it. But it's also you got to be able to enjoy your successes and enjoy the journey. I know in college, maybe Mike check this book out. Ryan, I think I've told you about it before. This book made one of the single biggest impacts in my wrestling career. It's called Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And it's about this. It's about like enjoying the journey rather than having the journey suck and expecting it of yourself. And I think, and Ryan and I have talked about this before. I was fortunate where going into my senior year, like I missed my entire junior year due to injury. No one really had expectations of me to do anything crazy that year. I wasn't even technically the starter to start that year because we had another really tough heavyweight named Doug Valero. So like when I was able to have, like I came into the year with no pressure and expectations and then had a great year. And then I was able to really enjoy my senior year where I had success. I was like, wait, wrestling is fun. Winning is actually fun. Like it was a total realization for me. And I've tried to continue to employ that in my life, but it's hard. Like I have to continually remind myself of those lessons, to enjoy the journey, because it's really easy to get stuck in a pattern of expecting yourself to succeed and then only being upset when there's failure, which it's a hard cycle to be in.
It is.
And you can have and like, what is the point of having all the success in the world if you're not going to stop and smell the roses every once in a while? But at the same time, don't get complacent and lazy, because that's like, it's like this fine line to walk.
Yeah.
100%.
No, that is such a crazy, I think, cool sports topic. And it's especially, lacrosse is a team sport, right? But for you, it's also kind of a one-on-one sport, right? It's you against the guy in front of you trying to win these face-offs. And so I think individual sports too, it's easier to kind of put that pressure on yourself where it's like a little bit easier measurable results. Like it's hard to say in a football game, like, yeah, you got your individual stats, but it's like your team won or you didn't, versus like, hey, did you win this face-off or did you win this match or no? And it's, all on you. So I do think that's interesting, but I also think that's what's great about sports. I think they teach a lot of great life lessons in a controlled environment. And I don't know, that competitive drive, like you're saying, like everybody else is trying to level up. Like you better hit the ground running when you wake up too. Otherwise, somebody's running in front of you. So definitely a fine line. So how about, what's an average career length for professional lacrosse? Like obviously you're young, but what are your thoughts on like how long do typically people stay in professional lacrosse before retiring from the sport, at least at a competitive capacity?
Yeah. The biggest thing there is lacrosse, very similar to wrestling in the sense that the opportunity after college is tough. Like unless you're going to wrestle in the Olympics, I again, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not much opportunity to make money outside of college for wrestling.
Really?
The same for lacrosse, right? So an average lacrosse salary, we'll say an average, right? A national average, probably $25,000. And people look at that and they're like, why would you even play? Like, why wouldn't you just go focus on a career? Now, there is other ways to make money. You look at sponsorships, you look at brand deals, you look at everything under the sun. So that 25 is probably the base. And then once you're like a really good player, you make like 50, and then off your brand deals, you make another 50. So you can do very well for yourself. But looking at the national average, there's a crossover between the question and the goals of whoever's playing, right? So if you're one of the best players in the world, you could find yourself making $100,000 to $150,000 a year, and you're playing for 3 months out of the year. Now that's phenomenal. Play for 10 years, play till you're 30, you save up. You like to think, right? I don't know if you actually save it up. Save up $1 million, we'll say. And that's great. I don't know what the interest rates are these days or who can retire on $1 million. But to answer your question, a lot of people, including myself, have full-time jobs during the week. So that does kind of bring down the age of professional athletes in the lacrosse sense, because if you're doing what I'm doing, you're waking up at 4 a.m., you're getting home at 7 p.m., and you don't dedicate as much time to training, you don't get as much sleep, you don't eat right. Things I'm trying to get better at, and we talked about it earlier, like the average span is probably 4 to 5 years. If you're a player who does full-time lacrosse, we'll say 5 to 7 years. But it also ties into the competitive of professional athletics. Like you could work your ass off, you could train all the time, but if you don't perform on the field, then you did that, you didn't have a full-time job, and now you lost your professional career, and now you're getting an entry-level position at 30 years old, right? So it's just stuff like that come into a factor on the span of how long people play. So it's just coming into the dedication you have to the sport. If you have an outside career in the sport, we'll say other than the sport. But other than that, like if you do it right and you have a good mindset, you can play both leagues, you have a full-time job, and you can do well for yourself, and wherever it takes you. If it's next year, 2 years, 3 years where I can't play anymore, knock on wood, hopefully it's 10. I have a job. I have a comfortable backdrop. But yeah, I guess to answer your question, people working full-time, probably 3 to 4 years, people doing full-time lacrosse, 5 to 7.
Yeah.
When will you be happy with your career?
Never.
Is there a goal you're chasing?
Yeah, I mean, multiple goals. Inside of lacrosse, probably just like face-off man of the year. These are all like just classic like goals, like face-off of the year. Like I'm fortunate enough to have 2 world championships the first 2 years I've played professional lacrosse, and that's like unheard of because one, before I got to Utah, is where our team is now, like they didn't even make the championship, and this is not a credit to me whatsoever. I'm just saying the opportunity to win a world championship in a very rigorous league is so like it's hard. I don't know many people with 2 championship rings, let alone 1, right? So I don't know. The goal there is just to be the best player I can be, maybe the best teammate I can be, but I guess intrinsic goals, face-off man of the year and stuff like that. Maybe humanitarian of the year, that might be like the default answer because that sounds pretty good. But like in all honesty, I'll do good things either way. I don't need an award for it. But work-wise, I don't know. Hopefully retire young. Just, I don't know. I really don't know. Whatever the...
Then you could smell the roses.
Yeah, they don't smell the roses. I'll invite you guys over if I get a nice farmhouse with like cool yard and stuff.
Let's
but I
go.
don't have that right now. I'm in a townhome right now. So
When will you play in Denver ever?
Yeah. We play in Denver. The schedule, can't see it from here, but we play in Denver like towards the end of the year. Sometimes just say like July, August, but I'll tell you guys.
Yeah, let us know. It'd be sweet.
Sure.
Max and I will try to make that. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, we have tickets for all that stuff. It's not like super hard to get, but obviously wouldn't want you to pay it even if it was $5. But I have tickets and everything. So when it comes closer to that time, then most definitely.
Dude, I love lacrosse. I 100% would love to watch you play. Like I seriously think in another life I would have played lacrosse. My problem, like same thing, Colorado. I was all for it. I was gonna play. I played all through 8th grade, and I was about to play in high school, and we didn't have enough people at our school, so it was like a district team league. So you had to drive like 35 minutes to another high school to play on that team. And I was wrestling full time traveling, so I didn't. But I wish I played lacrosse longer in high school. I loved it, man. It's a sweet sport.
Yeah,
I think I've told you this, Mike. I played lacrosse 1 year.
Yeah.
8th grade. I was goalie.
Hell yeah.
That's crazy.
You didn't have the same frame in 8th grade, did you?
No, I didn't. I was actually little in 8th grade.
Were you chunky?
Okay, little. Max,
No, I wasn't.
Max was like 180 pounds.
No, I was not. What did you wrestle in 8th grade? Both of you.
122.
91 pounds.
I wrestled 119.
Oh, we were around the same. Yeah, I was 122. I don't know. Yeah, that sucked. Because I remember I weighed 138, and I remember that because it was like chicken finger Fridays all the time in middle school. I never got to have chicken finger. And one time, my dad was friends with the lunch lady, and I went to get chicken fingers, and she's like, "Not today, Mike."
These are the lessons wrestling teaches you.
Oh, that is so awesome.
If your parents ever did this, but one, my dad would come to like the 8th grade parties and like make sure I didn't need anything. And two, when I was home, I had like cayenne pepper water and lemon juice. And I remember that because it tasted like shit all the time. It was so bad.
So hold on. Let's say you have kids in the future. Are you putting kids in wrestling, lacrosse? Are you gonna be the dad that's slapping chicken wings out of their hands, or what's that gonna look like?
No, it's a great. I mean, honestly, that I'll say one more story because we were having a pizza party at my house. My dad got Domino's for everybody, and he brings me out this bowl of chicken broth. I'm like, dude. But no, I mean, first and foremost, course, yeah. First and foremost, a man of God. So all I'm asking for is just healthy kids, no matter what they do, athletic, genius, whatever it may be. But if they are given the opportunity to play sports, I would definitely put them in wrestling. That's my favorite sport in the world. Lacrosse, I think just playing it so much and just being engulfed in it all year round, I'll let them pick if they want to play it. If they want to play it, I'll encourage them, I'll help them out. But if they don't, like I'm not going to bat an eye.
That's cool. I like that. I think that's such a great approach. And it's funny that like usually the high level athlete parents are good with their kids in sports because they're like, hey, I know how much work it takes. If you don't want to do it, whatever.
Yep.
And it's the dads that are like trying to live through their kids that like usually aren't, doing the best things.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
100%. And again, that's on the topic of like, if you force a kid to do something, maybe he'll do it for a year, but he'll end up hating it. He'll end up not wanting to do it. And then at the end of the day, when he doesn't want to do it, he's not going to perform. So it's just little stuff like that. And like, again, all of us being at the highest level of what we do, it's like, you know what it takes. And if you don't want to do something, like you really don't want to do something, then you're not going to be successful at it. So it's just little.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. I think, Ryan, maybe you said this. I don't know. I'll give you credit for it anyway, Ryan, but wrestling is way too hard of a sport to do for someone else.
Yeah.
You got to do it for yourself.
Dude, I think about that too is like, I don't know if you're at practice, it used to make me mad when teammates would like jack around at practice a little bit. Cause it's like, hey man, this sport's too hard to just like kind of go through the motions and try to run out the clock. Like try to get better here or like get out because it's going to be miserable either way. You might as well try to learn something.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
100%.
I have a really funny story about that.
Let's hear
Tell it.
I didn't dick around in the wrestling room because I loved wrestling and I genuinely felt the same exact way of what you said, Ryan. I wanted to get better. And look, I wasn't talented in wrestling. I did wrestling because honestly, people said I couldn't. And I just loved it so much that I was willing to give everything up just to get better at it and just to be on a team. So one, the just humbling factor of getting the shit beaten out of me every single day, coming from being at the best at something to being the absolute worst at something on the team. And two, like touching on the topic of just being a good teammate in a sense, I'm going to categorize your statement as a good teammate because if you're not picking up the people around you, like they're going to do that shit every single day and they're going to get everyone else. It's like a cancer. It's going to go from one guy saying, I'm not going to hit the wall. I'm not going to pass this pass. That translates over into someone else. They're not going to pass it for them because they just heard it from someone else. So in the short of it, I was very tough on my teammates. And I look back on it now and it is tough because maybe I just had a really high standard for myself on the lacrosse field and the team around me. But the funny part of the story is I was at the bar. Sorry for the people listening. I go to the bar. But like not frequently. This was like for a holiday party. And I see someone from school. It was an ex-girlfriend of a teammate. And she comes up to me. She was our manager. She says, wow, like, congratulations on a great career. It's great to see you still in the Lehigh Valley. And I was like, yeah, I'm helping out at Lehigh. She's like, I just want to let you know. She was dating a kid on the team. She said, I just want to let you know that I'm not going to name who it was. So-and-so. I was literally about to say the name. That's crazy. That so-and-so said you were the worst teammate he ever had. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, why would you say that to me right now? It's tying into the fact that if you don't want to be there, then get the fuck out. It's like there are other people trying to get better and you're taking that away from them. And I'll leave it at that, but that was a really funny story. And it took
that is hilarious.
Took me for a ride.
You were, yeah. So, well, he, whoever it was, may have thought you were the worst teammate ever, but you're probably the best teammate ever.
That's what I'm saying.
In reality.
Just because I was, people don't want to hear that. It's 2025. If you say something wrong to someone, they'll take it the wrong way.
Especially once you get to Division I athletics, like in high school, some kids, their parents are making them do it. They don't want to be there, but you're in a Division I wrestling room or on a Division I lacrosse field. Like, show up, make your teammates better. Like, that's like job number one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
totally agree.
I think also too, like, strong leadership isn't being the most popular with, being able to stand on unpopular decisions too. And like, there's definitely nuance in like knowing when somebody needs a kick in the butt and when they need a hug. But strong leaders are ones that'll call you out on your stuff because they care about you. Like, nobody that cares about you is going to call you out on your stuff. So that's I think that's so funny. I definitely understand. That's, I'm sure it was hard to hear, but it was probably it probably means you're doing your job the right way as a leader on a team.
It's also funny because if you meet Mike, and I'm sure you can tell by listening to this, it's about the world's nicest guy. So I have a hard time imagining you being a dick as a teammate. You too, Ryan, both. But I'm sure, once you get into the competitive landscape, it's different.
I mean, yeah, that's what separates good people from great people. We talked about it earlier, like not only in sports, but in the workplace too. I mean, I like to think that.
For sure.
But no, it was good. It was definitely tough to hear that, especially in the social scene around Trent. Oh, it was cool.
That's hilarious.
Hey man, I was just trying to hang out.
Yeah. She said, "Congrats on the great career. You were a terrible teammate."
Yeah. It was good. It was a backhanded compliment. I was like, "Thanks for talking to me." People probably think I'm the man if they don't hear what you're saying. Thanks.
That's awesome.
Funny. Well, Mike, this has been a great conversation, man. How can people find you on social media, on websites, whatever?
Yeah, I only have one really form of social media. It's just Instagram, just at Mike Siss, MikeSiss. If you guys throw this up, definitely tag me so I can repost it. But yeah, that's about it for me.
Awesome. You're the man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
You guys, dude.